guys, it's time again for another round of Axis and Allies and Zombies. And here we are at the Hilltop Pillbox, and we're just a couple days after Halloween, and the school that I work at did a monstrous job, a good job, monstrous meaning large, not bad, of decorating the school after Stranger Things, that hit Netflix show. And yeah, we had all 3 floors of the school all decked out and tons of stuff. They even dragged a car in there and wrapped it up in the Mind Flare. I'm not going to give any spoilers in case some of you haven't seen the last season yet, but we had the whole downstairs all decked out like the mall, and had the rest of the school decked out like the middle school or the hospital. And my leadership class actually did a haunted house in the small gym, and people would come in there, and the cost to do things at our Halloween event was a donation to the food bank and of a non-perishable item or some cash. And so we raised quite a bit of money and about 100 pounds of food. It's all going to the food bank, so we feel pretty good about that. And the kids had a great time, and the last people to go through were the administration. So our principal and 2 vice principals went through, and a quote from one of them was, he hated every minute in it. And he said that's a compliment, because he said you certainly carried out the good scares in that haunted house. And it was, I got to tell you, it was pretty scary. We had some excellent sights, sounds, and touches. Actually, the people, lots of ice was used, and yeah, it was fantastic, and lots of darkness. We also, with some help, put up an alphabet sign, just like the first season. If you've seen the show, you know Mom paints on the wall, so we put up an alphabet sign for that. And actually, one of the teachers rigged up the lights so that we could make them flick. Just like the movie or the TV show. So it's we could do that manually. It was fantastic. So we got a lot of rave reviews over that. But unfortunately, it's only a day long, and yeah, we couldn't do much else about it. But seeing some of the teachers buy in was amazing. Some of the athletic department and some of the other students or staff dressed up like lifeguards, and dressed up like people who worked at Scoops Ahoy. And they look pretty funny in those ridiculous costumes. But you know what? We have a fantastic staff. So when I work there, it's not even like going to work. Just hanging out with a bunch of friends, and we just happen to teach at the same time. It's a great time. So really thankful for that. But off of that scary stuff and on to this scary stuff here. We got just a solo game of this going today. It's just kind of late in the evening, and I thought, well, shoot, I'm not going to have much time going forward here to do much more gaming. I do have some other games laying about here, because we have a men's game group that I put together once a month, that they come by and we just have a good time. But more of the small games, the Euro games and whatnot, not so much Axis and Allies. But those friends are still out there. We just don't seem to have the same time off. And going into basketball season up here, I'm a basketball official again, after doing it for about 10 or 12 years ago. I've decided to throw my hat in the ring now that my son is a few provinces away. I'm not going to his concerts or his lacrosse games or football games or anything, so I figured might as well use some of that free time to yeah, try to get in some better shape than pair. So, but we'll see how that goes. So if you're not familiar with Axis and Allies and Zombies, very simply, every time an infantry unit dies, it gets replaced with a zombie. And the zombies have, well, they do their thing. So if you look at the sequence here on the card, so you can see you play a zombie card, and the zombie cards are simply a deck of zombie cards. And it doesn't matter what the symbol is on it or anything like that. So let's say, it's Germany's turn, you play this. So it says here, you add a zombie to Sweden, it is no longer neutral and has an IPC value of 1. Okay, so we have Sweden over here. So if we do that for the first round, which we might as well, there we go. There. It is now a zombie nation, and being a zombie nation, the zombies actually get a buck out of that. So down at the bottom here, you've got the tracker of the IPC, and since it's neutral, we're not taking anything away, so we're just kind of adding cash to the game with that too, which is nice. Because the cash in this game is very low. It's not meant to drag on and on and on. This is a pretty quick playing game. Hour and a half to 2 hours, you're typically done. Sometimes even earlier, somebody just cries uncle because the zombies are being crazy. And this one here, though, you also have desperate measures at the bottom of each card. It says you salvage operations, so this turn you get an IPC for each zombie that is destroyed. So whether you destroy it or somebody else destroys it, doesn't matter. Of course, you know, you just got the one there. But the neat thing is that when you fight your battles, we'll show you what it says here on the battle board. So you place your units on the battle board, you do the zombie, or the submarines, all that, then the zombies bite. And what it means by that is, for each zombie that you have, you roll one of these dice. And 3 of the sides are blank, 2 of the sides have an A, and 1 has a D. And the 2 A's mean the attacker, and the D means the defender. So you would roll these. So if there were 2 in the zone, you'd roll these, and the attacker right there would lose a unit of your choice. And so if you chose an infantry, that's basically adding another zombie to the territory. So then, after the zombies attack, then the attackers fire, defender fires, typical Axis and Allies, all the same stuff, on it goes. But then you have generate zombies. So what happens is, you know, let's say Buddy here was an infantry and he's on the defender zone, he gets killed, he goes into the zombie zone. Alright, let's say the Japanese were attacking and they lost, and they go into the zombie zone as well. So after that, you generate 2 more zombies. So these 2 guys, if the combat continues on, these 2 guys are now being generated as zombies, and 2 more zombies get added to that place that is under attack, and then those 2 zombies get to bite. So if you had 2 before, and if no zombies got destroyed, you know, now you're going to have 4 zombies attacking. Right, so ouch! So the attacker just lost 3 more units. So you can see that it is possible for you for the zombies to just, well, take a big bite out of you. But yes, I write my own material. You have to be careful. There are some simple strategies in this game that you'll use to try to slow down your opponent. One big strategy I've seen used quite effectively, actually, is the Russians buying nothing but infantry. Because then all it's going to do is add more and more zombies to the game, and typically the Russians take over this territory to start, and then just pound out the infantry. Now the problem with this game, not the problem, but the rules for this game is that you can only spawn that many units in factories as the IPC values. So only 2 units can be spawned here, only 4 can be spawned here. So the Russians can only ever make 6 units in a turn, which can be a problem. There's no factory in these other places, right? Can be problematic. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that there are factories in China and in India, but you can see the men on them, and that essentially means you can only generate infantry in these locations, which of course will just add to the zombie problem. So as neat as that is, it's kind of crazy. Now the zombies can take over factories, but there needs to be at least that many or more zombies in the territory in order to take it over. I think it's equal or greater, could be greater actually, might be greater. I'll look that up. But that's essentially what goes on, and the zombies, as you see already, you know, zombies can spring up anywhere at any time. So we have to be careful for you know, not leaving anything empty, because there will be one that says, you know, add 1 to the Balkans, add 1 to Germany, and you have to get rid of it. The best way to get rid of zombies overall, though, is to buy a lot of artillery instead of infantry, and that does cut down on the numbers, and that's Russia wants zombies. Now granted, there are cards here that will allow you to move half the zombies in a territory to an adjacent territory. So if Germany gets that, sometimes it's and they plunk them right in Russia, and that can spell spell some bad days for the Russians. That's pretty much it, though. The cards are a lot of fun. They add a great dynamic to the game. I really like the blood in this game. The money. But the money's covered in blood, and it's not all the same, which I was a little worried about. When I first saw it, I said, these are all going to be the same. But the markings on the bills are different. I think there's 4 or 5 different styles of blood marking. So they're not all the same. And that kind of keeps it fresh. And that's for all the denominations 1, 5, and 10. I thought that was a neat thing. I know there's been a lot of poo-pooing, so to speak, of a lot of these A&A games coming out, and they're kind of shorting you on things, and they're not putting a lot of money into them anymore and expecting us to pay more and more, but I thought that was a nice touch. They did on this game, though, short me 1 British transport, so one of my British transports is a slightly different color than the others, but it usually gets sunk pretty quickly, so it's not a big deal. Alright, so we're going to play out the first round here. We'll get back to you and let you know how it goes in just a moment. Alright, round 1 is in the books, and pretty typical of the things that happened here. Thought I'd try a couple of neat things just to see what would happen, but it just didn't make tactical sense to do it. So, kind of like some other Axis and Allies games, you kind of get shoehorned into making particular choices just because, as fun as it is to try something different, it might actually lose you the game by round 3. So first off, the Russians did take this zone here, and the Germans always take it back or try to, which results in a large stack. I think there's about 10 or 11 zombies in there now. And on the German turn, they're going to attack the Germans, and again they roll these dice here, and if they get any D's, it eliminates a German unit, which of course could create more zombies. We had a zombie placed here by the cards. We had a zombie placed here, which actually took the British down a little bit, and we had a zombie placed right in the United Kingdom. Now the zombies being placed there, they don't do anything unless it's your territory on your turn. So of course the British actually placed one in French West Africa on their turn, which did attack, didn't hit anything, and then on the Japanese turn one got placed in the United Kingdom, but it didn't do anything there either. The rest of these zombies that you see are from the battles that went on. So just to let you know what's going to happen now, in case you haven't played much, is that Russia is going to go next, and they're looking like they're in a bad way, and they kind of are. Pretty typical first round. Archangel's wide open here, and so the Russians really do have to try to deal with this mess here. The problem is that when the zombies attack at the beginning of each round, there's an attack. So attackers have twice the chance of being hit, and they really don't have a lot of stuff to fight with here. But if they don't, Moscow could definitely fall on round 2. The Russians do have about 17 bucks thanks to the bonus they got for an IPC for each zombie killed in that round, so they made an extra 3 bucks. But they can only place 4 units here, so with 17 bucks it's kind of hard to divide it up in a nice number. But we'll see. It might be 3 artillery and a tank, but then you're not creating zombies, and you really do want to create zombies as best you can when you do your attacking here against the Germans. But we'll see what happens on this turn. Sweden still remains a zombie territory. The Americans got a card that allowed them to move zombies rounded up, half the zombies in the territory rounded up into any other territory, and that was the only one they really wanted to do, because the rest are in good spot here. So they moved the one from Sweden into Finland, Norway, or Norway, Finland. And who knows, maybe they'll get a couple of D's and just wipe out the Germans right there and make another zombie territory. I guess we'll see. On round 2, the Japanese did very well on round 1, of course. This tends to be a given. They just take Sinkiang. Sometimes the American infantry gets a hit, usually not though. And so the Americans have to pull back from Yunnan. They build one guy in there, again just to feed the zombies. And the Japanese just hold the northern border here. They might head up north now because the American fleet has been crushed down here, and forces them to build a battleship to match the Japanese battleship and loaded carrier and 2 destroyers and sub. Plus the carrier here can go to and the planes can reach. So the American fleet is in real peril there. That's pretty typical in our games that we play. If the Japanese come out strong, the Americans tend to have to put some money into that fleet in order just to protect it. The British tried an attack from India to Southeast Asia with a man and an artillery and a fighter. Got no hits, and then the Japanese got 2 hits, killing the infantry and the artillery. So they pulled back the fighter, of course, and they brought the tank and the man over from Australia, which is now wide open. So we'll have to see what transpires on the next round. The Allies kind of took it on the chin in a couple spots. There's a good chance the Axis will get driven out of here, and the Germans can, with their transports, bring in reinforcements, but of course the British can bring in their battleship and kind of put a stop to that nonsense. So there's a lot of stuff that can go on here, but at its core is always, in these games, is the Eastern Front, and we'll have to wait and see what happens to that on turn 2 here of Axis and Allies and Zombies. Alright, round 2 is in the books, and the Zombies are on the march. They have taken over quite a bit here, and let's see if I got the 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, they should be at 9. Oh, they are at 9. So they're at 9. They're actually tied with the Soviet Union right now, I think. 6. Nope, Soviet Union we forgot to drop. So Soviet Union's actually at 7. The Zombies are at 9 incomes. The Zombies are making more bucks than the Soviets. And but there's some interesting things that happened. We'll start in the Pacific. Got a card that put a zombie on Midway, and of course Americans couldn't get out there. And the Zombies captured that for a buck. And you'll see that the American fleet is no longer here. They took out a couple destroyers and a sub and a plane, but they lost all their stuff. Not much could have been done there, and the dice just were not on their side either. Over here in Southeast Asia, the British made another assault, and this time were successful. We only had 1 tank left at the end, but they captured that $3, and $3 in this game is a lot. The $3 actually is the same as this plus this plus this. So that just brought Japan back to par, and then they're up 2. So that's a spicy meatball down there in the corner. India is only worth 2, so if that puts it into perspective for you. Germans vacated Anglo-Egypt, Sudan, and came up for an attack on the Caucasus. And the British also vacated down here in the Belgian Congo, got out of there. Notice there's no zombie left here. The Americans got a card that said you can convert a zombie where you have units, and they had a fighter and a bomber here, and so they converted that, so the Brits don't have to worry about a zombie in London for a while anyway. And the Japanese got a card that allowed them to move half the zombies rounded up 1 space, so they took half of the guys that were in West Russia, actually 9 out of 17, and moved them into Russia. Now, there's good and bad to that, and this is what I love about this game. First of all, don't take this game too seriously. Like, if somebody comes out of this and says, I'm a better strategist than you are, yeah, they might be, but zombies also decide an awful lot, because now that they're here on Russia's turn, which is going to be first, the zombies are going to attack, and there's 9 in there, so they're going to roll 9 of these dice here. These are the zombie dice, I've shown them before, and for every D they get, they kill a unit. Well, the Russians only have 5 units. Now, I doubt it's a 1 in 6 chance, so it's a long shot they're going to kill everything, but they could kill 1 or 2 things there, which will just make the door that much wider for the Germans. And so, you know, the Russians are kind of stuck right now, and the Japanese are coming in on all sides, but who knows, maybe when these zombies attack, maybe they get a couple hits and kill a couple tanks. And so I'll just have to wait and see. Oh, there's one little battle that I forgot to actually complete here. I got distracted by some of the zombie stuff here. So this is the guy that got converted up here. We just brought him down here. We just took our transport was here. We went up, picked him up, came back, and we're invading there. So we're going to roll that right here. Hey, lucky you, you're here for the action. And because it's just one infantry each, we're just going to roll a red and a black die. The red die will be the American, and the black die will be the German. We'll see how this amphibious assault goes. And the German got the hit. So, the American dies, but not before adding that. So the Germans hang on to the territory, but zombies there. Now the Americans could have flown planes down here, but this was more just of a long shot, hoping to disrupt the Germans there, because it is worth 2 points again, so it's worth the same as Southern Europe, for Pete's sake, right? So, but I think that those units are better used up there right now. And as you know, as bad as it looks here for the Russians, the worst forces are the zombies, and if the Russians don't provoke them, they should be okay. Plus, remember, when you go into a zone, so the Japanese moved all these guys into Russia. When the Japanese get an attack or the Germans get an attack, the zombies attack first. And you have a 1 in 3 chance of losing something to all those zombies. So that could kill, you know, if it's on par, it would kill 3 units. Those 9 units coming in, those 9 zombies there would kill 3 attacking units. So, and you never know, the dice could get super hot and they could wipe out your whole invasion force. That's kind of what happened here in Southeast Asia in the first round. The Brits just lost everything. You know, lost 3 things, boom. So, otherwise, yeah, the Brits sent up a destroyer and a sub, pardon me, to kill the transport and destroyer that were there. The Japanese came at it with a destroyer and a fighter and a bomber. And the destroyer and the sub ended up getting a couple hits, so the sub hit was applied to the destroyer, and then the destroyer knocked out a fighter. So that was kind of nasty. Lots of metal on the bottom of the sea over here today. Nothing else of huge note. You can see Karelia fell. That's kind of a given in this version. Not much can be done to save them. So yeah, Russia's really got the squeeze on right now. We'll see if round 3 they're going to get finished off. I don't know if you noticed the zombies in New Guinea. And that's the great thing about this game is you just grab these cards, there you go, add a zombie to midway so you have no idea. You just boom, there's a zombie in your territory. And that encourages especially the Brits to try to get units into all your territories, because all of these territories might be just invaded. Just plop down a zombie and boom. And the zombies capture territories. For those of you who aren't familiar with the order of what goes on here, the turn sequence, so you play the zombie card. Any zombies in your territories will attack you. First game we played, we just had the zombies attacking everybody, so you can see how well that one went. And then the zombies will capture territories at that point. So if you play a zombie card and it goes onto an open space, they'll definitely capture that territory. So. I'm not sure what else to say. That's pretty much it for round 2. I'm going to come back for round 3. We'll let you know how it goes. Stay tuned, folks. The zombies are here. Alright, round 3 is well and truly done. And this is becoming quite interesting here. We'll start in the Pacific, where we know the Americans have pretty much given up. Japanese got a neat card that allowed them, or not a card, pardon me, they got a neat technology. It's called Dead Napper Convoys. You can see right there. And that allows them to, any unused transports, any transports that didn't get used during that turn, can then pick up 1 or 2 zombies, kind of treat them like infantry, and you can drop them off anywhere you want. You're not going to be attacking with them, but you're just moving them around. So in this one here, the Japanese, since there's no American threat here, decided to bring a transport over here and drop off a zombie in the Hawaiian Islands. Didn't do any damage on its turn, but there it is. The Americans also got a card that allowed them to convert a zombie into $3 in a space where they had troops, so they got rid of the one in Alaska. figuring that at least the Hawaiian one, even if it did kill the guy, he's kind of stuck there. If they can get rid of that, so but we'll see what happens here. In the next turn, we have the Brits came up here and took coastal China, so the Japanese had to kind of turn around and take it back, but they were able to get rid of all the zombies in Xinjiang. Yunnan, nothing has gone in there, so the Japanese will hang on to it until anybody else goes in, just like typical Axis and Allies. The Brits built something down here, just figuring they'd be annoying, but you know, not sure if that's going to come into much play, but we'll see. Zombies continue to hold Africa for the most part. The Brits did a kind of a suicide attack and actually defeated the zombie there. Now the neat thing is that when you do attack zombies, everything that you attack with is actually up 1 on its attack chances, one of the d6 sides, because you know you got your 1, your 2, you got your 3, your 4, and you got your 5, but you've also got this. This is the 6 on the die, and it's just basically a dead zombie die. So infantry, although you typically have to get a 1 to kill anything, and you can also now get that. So you have a 1 in 3 chance of killing a zombie when you go to attack it, and it has a 1 in 3 chance of killing you because you're attacking it, so it's a 1 in 3. So it's even odds, so if you ever feel like doing it, go for it. One of the other technologies that I haven't really talked about yet, but if you know the game, you'll understand them quickly, but we've got the zebra suits here that the British have, very handy, so when it comes time to actually do the attack, where the zombies are supposed to attack you, I guess I'll do the exact thing here. Each of your infantry units in a territory prevents 1 zombie in that territory from attacking in the zombie attack phase, right? So, zombie attack phase happens right after you play the card, so every territory where you have something, it'll attack you. But if your guy has a zebra suit, like this guy did, that prevents 1-to-1. If there were 2 zombies, the second zombie would take a chomp at him. So that's handy. And then they and the Germans have the chainsaw tanks, which means if you move into a territory with tanks and there are zombies there, you get a free round of combat against them. And so, on a 1, a 2, a 3, or that, you'll kill a zombie. So it's a, you know, it's a 2 out of 3 shot. And so when the Germans came into the Caucasus this last round, they brought in a stack of tanks and did an attack, they got their preemptive strike and they just wiped out the zombies. So that's kind of how Germans like to deal with zombies. That's why we built some more tanks here. There was a definite threat here from the British, so built a sub and just put 4 units here, non-zombie units, zombie possibility units anyway. The Brits did attack here, and they got down to the last thing. And you know how sometimes you decide, oh, you know, I got to give up a plane or I give up a ground unit. And if I give up a plane, I take the territory. But if I give up the ground unit, you know, I'll hang on to my plane, but then I don't get the territory. So in this case, in this game, many times it makes sense to just go ahead and give up the ground unit, hang on to your air power, because now the zombies take this. At least you're denying the Germans. Now, yes, the Brits are out $4, but there's no chance that their single artillery would have survived. So you might as well let the Germans try to come in here and dislodge the zombies. So your work is done. It's almost like a bit of a spoiler move. So the Americans came over from the coast and they dropped off a man in a tank here in Gibraltar. They did that instead of attacking here because, of course, it's a 1 in 3 chance they'd lose something, which would be the infantry, of course. And then off you go. So it just wasn't worth it. They're going to wait for some more stuff. So the Americans are starting to build up a bit of a force here. And should be something for the Germans to deal with shortly if the Germans can't get into Russia soon. That's pretty much it. Not much else went on here. Like I say, the Japanese cleared out all of China. Caucasus is definitely in German hands, not to change any time. And the Russians, because they've been left alone for a couple of turns in Moscow, they now have 9 infantry and an artillery and a fighter and then a couple of friendly bombers, but there's also 9 zombies in there. So we'll see if they do any damage here on turn 4 of Axis and Allies and Zombies. Alright, we are done with turn 4. And the Zombies have been pushed back quite a bit this round. Thanks mainly to the Germans, a little bit to the Japanese, and a little bit to the cards. So we'll just let you know what's going on here. The Germans were able to get rid of the zombie presence in Western Europe. And the Germans also had a neato card, which there's a few copies of this. So they got this card here. Well, they got to add a zombie to East Indies, so that took $2 away from the Brits. Just how do you like that? And then with the hidden supply cache, so when you liberate a zombie controlled territory in addition to the infantry rewards. So essentially if you liberate this guy gets killed and you liberate the zombie controlled, when you take it over you get a free infantry. But according to this card, in addition to that, you get some extra stuff. And so the Germans, they made out like bandits here because they took this one here and they got a free artillery out of the deal. And they took this one here and they got a free fighter out of the deal. And yeah, it's, you know, good for them. The other places that got taken, Southeast Asia was taken back by the Japanese. And they had a card. The only reason they could do that was because they had a card that allowed them to move half zombies rounded up to another territory, an adjacent territory, so they shipped them all over to India. And then a couple of tanks came down here. A little bit of a wing and a prayer, it was 2-on-2, but they were able to take care of that. Germans were able to get rid of the stack of 8 pretty handily. They had 9 tanks, and they got, I think, 4 hits, which is below average, below what they should have gotten. They should have gotten 6, but then they did alright and were able to clean out those zombies there. So the big stack of zombies in Russia, if this next card doesn't allow the Russians to move them, could do some damage, because this stack here actually killed 3 Russian infantry last round, and they could only afford to buy 2. And like they're down to $5 and they have 6 to spend, so they can put in 2 guys, but if they keep getting chomped away by these guys, that won't go well. So we'll see how that goes for them. The Germans have had to reinforce in the south here because the Americans had a big landing with force in North Africa. Killed the infantry but lost an infantry and killed the zombie that was there, but obviously you're going to produce more zombies when your infantry dies. So the Japanese, being very cheeky, picked up the zombie from here and brought him over to Mexico. And took $2 out of the Americans' pockets. And the Americans didn't have this guy here at the time, so they built an artillery to be cannon fodder when they go down there. If they kill it, then they'll lose the artillery, and that'll be end of the zombie presence there. But of course, on America's turn, they had to place a zombie in the eastern United States. So, hey. Again, that's why, you know, I respect people who can play Axis and Allies very well, you know, to a high extent. I enjoy this game, but sometimes you just can't plan for it. The British made a bold move here, came in with everything, their air power, and brought the bomber in from Russia, and took out the battleship and the sub, and then landed a couple guys in Eastern Europe, just being cheeky, and knowing that those 2 guys will then become zombies. That might stick around for the battle, so we'll see how Germany responds to that. And the British took 2 of their fighters from India and brought them up here. One of the rules you may not be aware of is air only attacks on zombies. When you attack a zombie or a zombie force with strictly air units, you get 1 round of freebie combat. Basically, you're just doing a strafing run or a bombing run, and you apply the hits and then you fly off. The Americans on this turn, though, were able to get what's called air dots, and I forget what it means, but essentially you get to do double the amount of combat, so you get to do 2 rounds. So if there were a zombie infestation somewhere and you had 3 planes, they could each get 2 shots at the zombies and try to wipe them out. And there's no chance zombies can take out the air units in that way. Zombies can also not take out air units like during this round. If they get some hits in the zombie attack phase where they have to roll a D, The Russians can't choose, not that they would, but they can't choose to lose any of the aircraft that are there. They have to take infantry or ground units, essentially. All right, well, that's round 4. We'll see what round 5 brings. The Japanese are looking pretty thin here, but they have no real natural enemies. They've got some unnatural enemies, but we'll see what happens, see what kind of joy the cards bring. If you're wondering about these tokens here, these are from Historical Board Gaming, and I bought 10. And they're all out on the board, and that's why Mexico has this one. So essentially what you do, it's just a regular token, and on the back of all the regular tokens they've got the skull, the zombie skulls. So if you see other people playing the game and you don't see these I bought. And I should have bought 20, I guess, because the zombies seem to be spreading quite well. Well worth, I think it's like $8 for 10 or $6 for 5 or something. Like, it's not much, and it I really like them, and they're obviously the thicker ones. They're printed on there. So all right, enough of that, and on we go with round 5. This might be the round Germany takes a shot. We'll see what these zombies do on Russia's turn. All right, well, Dire Straits is gonna just finish this off for us here. And the Allies are definitely in dire straits. There's not much that can be done here. The Germans were able to take Moscow. And there's 8 zombies entertaining them there. But they won't do anything for a while. For a whole round, actually. And in order to have the Allies come back on this, they would need to capture Berlin. And as you can see, they just collapsed everything in there, as you would, just to hold on to your capital. Hang on to that. Of course, Japan, Tokyo itself is in no problem area at all right now. There's nothing that can get there or get even close. The Americans were becoming a bit more threatening, but really, again, there's nothing that they can do at this stage of the game. Now you're saying, now how in the world did the Germans manage to go in there and have that kind of success? Well, this card did it for them. Not so much the adding a zombie to Siberia, which obviously happened, but zombie camouflage. In each territory you attack this turn, zombies don't roll for the first round of that combat. So, when they went in, they had the 8 zombies that were in there, and combined with the Germans' chainsaw tanks, they get the first round of combat free versus the zombies. And they rolled 7 hits off the 10 tanks. So there was only 1 zombie left. And when it did its attack, it actually killed a Russian. It rolled a D. And then it just went downhill from there for the Russians. So there were 10 tanks, a couple of infantry, and a fighter that the Germans were able to bring, which then flew back to Berlin. The British got kicked out of here, of course. And yeah, that's it. So game ends at the beginning, essentially, of turn 5. You know, you could play it out, and mathematically, the Brits could come over here, grab 2 units, bring it back and attack, and bring in a fighter. But really, I mean, let's just be honest here, that's just not going to happen. And nothing else can get there either. Even the 3 American transports can get here, but they can't attack Germany proper. So, but thanks so much for watching, folks. And on my last video, I just asked if anybody was interested in maybe coming up to Abbotsford here in BC next year. What months or what time of the year would work best? I got a few replies. Most of them were in between the March and the May time zone. So we'll take a good look at that. But there's also something else I want to mention. I have been, well, I had a pretty interesting experience when I first moved out to British Columbia from Alberta. And I'm a teacher, as you may know, and I could not find a job in British Columbia as a teacher, not even as a substitute teacher. There was nothing at the time, and it's a long story that involves a lot of politics, and I don't want to talk politics, but you can look it up if you're so inclined. But eventually the Supreme Court of Canada ruled, which is funny because it's under the provincial purview, education is, but the Supreme Court of Canada actually came to bat for the British Columbia Teachers Federation and said that the government needed to hire more teachers, essentially. They were getting large classes going, you know, up in the 40s and needing lots of supports that just weren't there. And so the BC government had to pour, I don't know if it was billions, but tens of millions, if maybe even hundreds of millions. I'm not sure exactly the number. But instantly, all these TOCs got picked up later on. But during the 6-year gap between the time I got out here and the time that happened, I actually got to teach in federal prison. And that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of great experiences and some not so great experiences. Prison changes a man, as they say. But what I did was, instead of just having it scar me for life, which it really didn't, but what I did was I wrote down some of my thoughts. I actually wrote a humor column for the college I was working for at the time, the one that was contracted to provide education to federal inmates here in Canada, in British Columbia. And out of that came the idea to write a comedy series. And so I wrote a pilot, and you know, I was toying about the idea of getting it made. It's very expensive, as you know, probably, to make a TV show. And so my wife and I said, hey, you know, let's go for it. Let's try what we can. So we shot what is known as a trailer, a sizzle reel. And there's a 3-minute trailer and a 7-minute sizzle reel for viewers, and you can watch it. The name of the show is called Chalkboard Prison. I'll put a link in the description box below. Chalkboardprison.com is the name of the site, and Chalkboard Prison is the name of the show. And you can go there and watch it if you like, if you're so inclined. No, you know, you don't have to, but it's kind of a look at the life of a teacher who can't find a job and ends up teaching in federal prison, and the antics and the things that go on there. And a lot of the stories will come from my experience. And right now, I'm not allowed to say much, but there is a producer who's very interested in making it. Says that there's a lot of possibilities. It's endless possibilities, actually. You can throw anything at it, as some people have said, and it'll work. So that's something I've been working on recently. That's why I haven't been putting up a ton of videos. I've been very busy, not just being a teacher, which in and of itself is quite demanding, but I've also been doing this. So this next week I'll be hopefully signing a contract for the show to get shopped around, to get pitched to various networks, and the concept can work anywhere around the world, because everybody has you know, regular school and everybody has prisons, and mixing the two sometimes brings up some interesting results. And yeah, so that's what a lot of our energy has been poured into recently. So if you're interested, go ahead and take a look. Again, chalkboardprison.com. And you can follow the Facebook page as well, chalkboardprison. Well, not .com, but Chalkboard Prison on Facebook. And yeah, just looking to get some more interest out there. And like I say, with this producer, this producer's actually started producing, or got the show started up here in Canada called Dragon's Den, and then was asked to actually start the production on Shark Tank in the States. And there's some other things that that she's done with AMC and some of the other networks around. So we're very excited, very hopeful. Not trying to be overly anticipatory about it, but this is a really good opportunity for us, and I hope that we can move forward on it and bring some more entertainment out there. I love being an entertainer. I love having people enjoy the stuff that I produce here. And again, I know a lot of people are better at Axis and Allies than I am. I got no ego when it comes to this game. But I hope you do enjoy the videos. If there's a particular game you would like me to do a round of, I've hopefully got some buddies coming by not too long a time, and we'll be able to crank out a game. I want to get back to Anniversary, do another one of those, but if a lot of people come on here and say, oh, we want this, we want that, we'll do that. Recently picked up another copy of Axis and Allies Pacific, actually, the old one from '99, so we might do like a 2-board of that, but we'll see. But anyway, that's a bit of an update on our lives here in Abbotsford, and next week heading off to my nephew's wedding in Calgary, so that'll be fun, and I guess we'll talk to you after that sometime. And as always, make sure you hug your loved ones. Tell your friends that they mean a lot to you, folks. You just don't know how long they're going to be around, and it's so important for all of us to feel loved, feel like we have a sense of belonging, and make sure that you do that for other people, and it'll come around for you too. And as always, folks, may those dice be with you.